I'm Greatrix. I've been programming since I was 6 years old because back in the 1970s, my dad was the head of the physics section of the Teesside University. And he was told, you must take ownership of all these computer things. So he brought home this big box of integrated circuits, soldered them together on the kitchen table, said, sure, that's done. I really enjoyed programming it, looked at the instruction manual, and eventually found it hours later under my pillow, where I was fast asleep having read it. So from then on, I discovered that my dad had introduced me to this brilliant game called computer programming. It's been my career ever since. It was perfect. I was born to do this, I was. So as far as security stuff goes, out of college, I was involved in building data mining tools to pursue international criminals, which was quite exciting. The guy in charge of the project was called Robin Banks, and I thought, that's a joke. It's a joke. He can't really be called Robin Banks. But no, he was. And after I stopped doing that, I got involved in e-commerce and did e-commerce for many years, where it was all about stopping people hacking the websites, stealing credit card details, forging orders, and from the mid-90s to now, that's what I've been specialising in. I also had the fun of being introduced to Java programming when Java was released. My boss came home and said, I went to this conference, I saw Java, learn all about it. Okay. It's been a career. So, that's me. Now, to actually understand how to prevent data exposure, I thought the easiest thing to do as well was look it up on the internet. That's what we do these days. It's full of great free advice. You can go there just get any kind of advice you want. Good, bad, mediocre, orange flavoured. If you don't like the opinions you get on the internet, just look a bit further, you'll find some different opinions. It's lovely that way. The internet also has pictures of cats, which I like. The internet is not responsible for the collapse of civilization yet, which I think is a plus. And Google has excellent branding. You might wonder what that's doing there, but when the founders of Google were trying to pick up a name for Google, they said, what should we call it, what should we call it? And they picked Google, which they then misspelled. Because first, they started with a spelling mistake. That was their branding. Google was coined 100 years ago by a 9-year-old who was asked to come up with a silly sound. So what Google were trying to tell you is misspelled silly sounds. Google actually is one of the largest named numbers, which was another thing. So it's Google, the branding is lots and lots of misspelled witterings of a 9-year-old. Excellent branding, totally on point. I think they're going well. So basically that's why we don't trust the internet. So as a further example, I thought I'll see if we could do this presentation following the advice I get from the internet. Actually, I didn't get this advice, but this is just bad advice I've been told over the years. So start with a joke. Yeah, because this is a comedy club. If this is a comedy club, I'm in the wrong place. And somebody else should probably drag me off and actually tell a joke. Imagine the audience naked. I mean, seriously guys, you guys are so gorgeous. You're so sexy. If I did this, I would need therapy for weeks. That would make me feel so inadequate. Totally disconnected from reality. Oh God, avoid showing emotion. Who says this is a good thing? I mean, as you've already gathered, I can't do that one. And use images and just things. Image searches. I picked success or failure as a Google search for an image. And this image clearly says you are going to fail to anybody in a Western culture because Western people view the future as to the right and in front of them. So that sign says, you were succeeding, you're now crashing and burning, which you might think I am. Maybe I should run for it. Okay, so back to something slightly serious. What these talks, I've noticed we always go through the historical data breaches to prove that these things are an issue. So, okay, so the first one up. 200,000 years before Common Era to 6,000 years before the Common Era. people lived in tribes. They had literally no privacy. If you had a collection of erotically shaped root vegetables, everybody knew what tree stump you hid it in. There was no privacy. So no data breaches all the time. Ancient city culture. Yeah, they didn't like it. And this clicky thing's working. Oh, voice check, you said you'd fix that. We were going to get a quote from Socrates, which would have been very erudite. But, you know, it crashed. Void check. It worked earlier, yes. An hour ago it worked. Oh, no, it's all gone horribly wrong. Void check! Come and fix it. Sorry, folks. We did test it. We did. It's like the classic, we are programmers, we test things, and then they go horribly wrong in the comic when the demo. Yeah, we tested it. We went through the whole thing on your laptop. On this laptop. Yeah, LibreOffice. Open we download. It's slide 4. That one. Current slide. That's the one. Thank you. Right. Let's see. Oh, God, went wrong. What quote from Socrates? Right, yes. Yeah, Socrates lived in an ancient city. He thought privacy was a bad thing. If you had privacy, then you were just not going to prosper, things were going bad, you wouldn't get any justice. Privacy, bad thing, data breaches should happen straight away. Then we move on to like more modern times, only 2,000 years ago. If you wanted to ask for privacy in Europe in that time period, you couldn't. There wasn't a word for it. Medieval Latin and Classic Latin were the international languages at the time, and there was literally no word for privacy. So data breaches, again, utterly compulsory. Fourth Council of Lateran, that's the Catholic Church, they say everybody must confess. In other words, data breaches are mandatory. So, yeah, lots and lots of mandatory data breaches, they just kept happening. 1450, here we get close to the modern days, they actually coined the word privacy. The word privacy is related to the word privation, which means to deprive of the necessities of life. It means to make people suffer. And that's the word they picked. They view privacy as a really bad thing. 1700, we finally got solo beds. I bet a lot of people were pleased about that. Because pre-forest they all shared, and everyone knew exactly what people were getting up to. 1890, the first time anybody ever said, we have a right to privacy. He didn't mean we have a right to be deprived of the necessities of life. He meant, I don't want my photograph taken. It was the rise of technology that said, we might actually not want to share everything with everybody. But the point where all this is, for 200,000 years, the entire history of humanity, we have been terrible at secrecy. I mean, it took us 200,000 years to even think of a word for it. I mean, it's just terrible. We are, as a species, we are useless at keeping sensitive data secure. That's just the fact of it. I mean, I could go on to computer age, but really, I mean, it's a drop in the ocean for what else gone through. Anyway, as computer people, we're supposed to do this unnatural privacy thing. And I say unnatural in the context of 200,000 years history, and it only being like even a thing for 100 years. So anyway, the standards we're working to, OWASP have some good ones. I'm going to be talking about one of them in a little while. Most of my experience has been with the PCI DSS standards because I was doing e-commerce. The tools we're asked to work with are the Ciphers, which I use when you want to make something high and then reappear, and hashes, which when you want to make something small and not look like anything like it originally looked like. That was the best focus I could find. If I'm going too fast for anybody, because I'd get nervous, I talk fast. Just slow me down. On the other hand, because I'm nervous, I talk fast, it'll be over soon. You might be glad of that. We're asked to use strong encryption. strong encryption is worth defining, otherwise we don't know what we have to do. This is taken from the National Institute of Security Standards, NIST, who mandate what the United States use, and they're pretty much what everybody will go to. There are other standards. France and Germany have approved ones which are broadly equivalent, but much less detailed. Then there are also private academics who've proven stuff, and they're again broadly similar. The NIST ones tend to be a little bit stronger. So at the moment, we're probably on this slide, 2016, 2030 and beyond, which that's all right. But if you want to be ultra secure, then you look at the bottom line, and things start to get a little scary, like 15,360-bit RSA keys. They're just gigantic and take forever to calculate. That's because of the discovery of Shor's algorithm for factoring large numbers. The only useful thing a quantum computer was ever done. Shor, who created that algorithm for factoring large numbers, he set out to prove that quantum computers were totally useless. He said, I'm going to go think of everything you could possibly do with a quantum computer and prove you can do it better with a classical computer. And he was very annoyed when he found out this algorithm for factoring large numbers, because it was actually useful and a use for quantum computers. So he was disappointed, but I know he's got an algorithm named after him. So he suffers. Right, is strong encryption a good idea? XKCD says, not really. Really, we're asked to use these strong tools, but social engineering will always beat our systems. We're just one part of the system, and no matter how good we are, the $5 wrench will pretty much always beat us, unfortunately. That's depressing, because I spent so much of my life actually trying to implement these things. But yeah, if someone beat me or a friend with $5 wrench, I'd probably tell them the password. Personal information. We're supposed to protect personal information. This is what XKCD says as their privacy policy, which I think is quite fair. It's, yeah. If you don't need the information, that's definitely the easiest way to protect it. Just never, ever get it in the first place, or delete it immediately, because then nobody can blame you for letting it go, because you never get it. Okay. I'm going to talk about the cryptographic storage cheat sheet from OWASP. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm going to nitpick it. I'm going to pick out some tiny details from their 17 rules. I only was able to find little nitpicks in 9 of those rules. So these are some of the things that I picked up as just what they define good encryption as. They said they want to use Diffie-Hellman. Diffie-Hellman is for the RSA scheme. And as I pointed out a little while ago, RSA possibly vulnerable to Shor's algorithm, so people are going with the larger and larger key sizes, which are slower and slower. The Diffie-Hellman with the minimum of 2048 bits. Questionable, particularly if you go back to where we were a little while ago. I've read at a point that saying 2048 bits is there. But the other things, if we cross-check it, we'll find them maybe on the line below. So they've actually reduced the strength when they said 2048 from what NIST was saying. And there's no guidance as why did you go for the weaker thing except for performance and less security. So again, RSA 2048 bits and Argon 2. I'll have plenty to say about Argon 2 later on. It's a great algorithm, Argon 2. Very well, very well designed, excellent in the right place, but not there. Yeah, Argon 2. Sorry, I forgot the slides coming straight immediately. I knew I was going to talk about Argon 2. Okay. So some guys said, we want a really good password hashing algorithm. We've used password-based key derivation function for a long time. We've used SHA, but we want something better. So they decided they would have a competition just like NIST did when they came up with AES as the best cipher. They modelled it on that, and they put it out to the world and said, send us your algorithms. The problem is, these were just some guys, not the National Institute of Science and Technology from America. So the competition didn't actually get that much attention. What the guys were looking for was a hashing algorithm that was resistant to application-specific integrated circuits. That's computers designed specifically to crack the password. And they did that by making them the puzzle just too big to fit on an ASIC. ASICs are available up to 128 megabytes. The authors are recommending use at least a gigabyte of memory every time you process one of these password hashes. Now, on a busy website, if you get 40 people logging in, that's 40 gigabytes of memory you need immediately, just to process the login. If you make the problem easy, because Argon 2 is tunable, you could go down to, say, 512 kilobytes. That's still quite a lot, but you're then vulnerable to the GPU acceleration, because the limit on GPU, the CUDA API, is 512 kilobytes. So if you make it small, you make it vulnerable. And of course, lost the ASIC. It's also time hard. It takes a long time to process these things. It's not just a lot of memory, it's a lot of time. You're looking at several... I combined the recommendations for PCI DSS, which are badly worded and say you must use a work factor of 100,000, and put it into this Argon 2, and then it took 26 minutes to process one hash on my home PC. So that's a good login time. Put the password in, 26 minutes later, you get told you've spelt it wrong. So, yeah. As I said, you can configure Argon 2 to be really, really weak securely, and then there's no point. So, yeah. If you want login to be a denial of service on your own website, use Argon 2, which is why I said it's not a good thing to use in the way OWASP are currently recommending it. Because if you use it incorrectly, it's not a denial of service, but there's no point. If you use it correctly, it's a denial of service against yourself. Okay, moving on. This is a tiny nitpick, it really is. They said CCM or GCM are approved authenticated encryption mode based on Alias. Most people think that's gibberish. I don't blame you, it's a lot of jargon. CCM, which is CBC map counter mode, or Galois counter mode, there are different ways of using a cipher. Any cipher. They're not specific to Alias at all. So they're not based on Alias. You can use them with Alias. That's a tiny nitpick, but it shows how easy it is to find something on the internet and get carried away. Also, as I'll explain a bit, CCM and GCM have flaws. And my recommendation would be that lot of gibberish. Alias, with cipher feedback, encrypt that H black using H black shelf 256. It's just gibberish. It's like spouting alphabet C. Why Alias? There are lots of ciphers. Here I saw I picked off Wikipedia earlier. Lots of them. Every single one has something to recommend it. Lots of people like Salsa at the top right because it's written by the same guy who did the Edwards curve. It's like a counter-government person who, definitely not in competes with the American government. Hasty Pudding was a rival to AES, so went to the same competition, but didn't make it to the finalists. But yeah, what we're looking for is a cipher that has had lots and lots of scrutiny from a wide range of experts, and nobody has found any serious vulnerabilities with it. Preferably no vulnerabilities at all. So we want to rule out any cipher that's just someone's pet project, any cipher that's just a niche application, any cipher that's not had this broad range of scrutiny. So that's what we'll do. And everything that doesn't meet one of those criteria, we'll get rid of. Yeah. And that's why we use Alias. It's the only cipher that's had this depth of study without anybody finding a problem with it. I find it really annoying that I've only got one tool, because what if somebody does break it? But it's the only unbroken tool. So yeah, we use Alias. Why CFB CFB is one of these ways we can use a cipher. Ciphers are actually a permutation of a block of bytes. They don't magically transform it, they just rearrange all the bits. And if you just use it that way, you're using it in a way called electronic codebook mode. Electronic codebook always transforms exactly the same input to exactly the same output. Every time. It's a different route, it's a cryptographically secure output, but the same 32 bytes in gives you the same 32 bytes out, which means that it reveals the document structure. There's a famous picture on Wikipedia which of a penguin, I'm sure you can go and look it up later, which shows they encrypt the image of the penguin and you can still see it's a penguin. So nobody uses electronic codebook because it leaks data all over the place. Cipher blockchain, that was popular for a long time. Everybody liked it. But then we got the problem with cipher blockchain is you have to have an exact multiple of 30 bytes in your encrypted data. And you do that by padding the last block in some way. That padding turns out to be really difficult to do, and we've got a whole set of padding oracle attacks, where you could work your way backwards through the message, decrypting it one bit at a time once you crack that. So cipher blockchain has gone out of fashion. Propagating cipher blockchain. It's a twist on the original, on above, but not many people use it. It's using Kerberos, for example, so it is used, but it's not widely studied. And as I said previously, we want something that's been widely studied because that means we can trust it, because nobody's found problems yet. So that's out because nobody's studied it enough. Counter mode. A lot of people like counter mode at the moment. With counter mode, you never actually encrypt the message you're sending. What you do is you encrypt just a counter, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You encrypt that, and then you exclusive or the bit stream you get from that encryption with your message to produce something that's incomprehensible. It has two problems. One is that because it's a counter, part of your 32-byte input is used up on that actual counter. It's fixed. The rest is your initialization vector, ID, and that's much smaller than it is for the other modes. And if you ever repeat it, even accidentally, people can work out the messages that you've encrypted. It also wears out your cipher keys sooner, which is still, I'll get to wearing out keys in a bit, but they last so long you don't actually have to care. Technically they wear out, and technically using that method they wear out sooner, but you still don't have to care, because it's just too long. But if somebody says it's a security problem, yeah, there you go. Output feedback, very, very similar to my preferred cipher feedback, except some people notice that a special option of output feedback, then they have a number of bits. They don't do full bus. That was weak. So output feedback became tainted by reputation. It doesn't have a good reputation. It's actually strong, but it's not worth the argument. Which leaves you with the last mode of operation. Again, we're down to the last one in the cupboard. It would be nice if we had more options, but people keep breaking things. Cipher feedback is NIST and FIPS approved, and it has no vulnerabilities, which is the only one on the list. So that's why I'm stuck with AES, with cipher feedback. What is cipher feedback? Since I recommended it, I thought I'd show the picture, because, I talked weak on pictures. In cipher feedback, you only ever encrypt. Even on the decryption side, it's still encryption. You start with a random initialization vector. That's public knowledge. Nobody hides the information of initialization vector. You send it as part of the message. You encrypt it, and exclusive or your plain text will produce the first block of output. That ciphertext is then re-encrypted again, exclusive or with the next block of plain text, and produces the second block of ciphertext. You then repeat. When you get to the end of the message, you won't have enough plain text to fill it up, but that's okay. You just stop after that number of bytes. There's no need for any padding, so it's not vulnerable to padding or text. And decryption is the reverse. It's nice and simple. You do the same encryptions, do the same exclusive ORs, and because exclusive OR always reverses itself, you get back your plain text. It's a nice, simple way of doing things, and you can sort of, I like the diagram because you can see the logic to it. It's nice and simple. And simple means you can understand it. And things you understand is nice, it's good to trust. So, let's see. Oh, wrong way, sorry. Password strength. Back to the OWASP recommendations. They said a lot of good stuff, and I picked out this one sentence as my nitpick. If a password has been used to protect keys, then the password strength should be sufficient for the strength of the key to protect. Well, that sounds good, but how on earth do you define it? What is sufficient strength for the password? If I have a 256-bit cipher key, do I need 256 bits of information in my password? Because if I do, I need a 39-character password, which is hard to remember. So, the general opinion is you don't need a 39-character password with 256 bits in it to protect the 256 cipher key. And to me, that feels uncomfortable because it means you've selected something that's easy to break to protect your deep secret. It's like putting your money in a cardboard box instead of a safe. I just don't know. but a lot of people, I don't understand this point, so I'm just going to put it out there. They say you do not need passwords this strong. I can't work it out. If a password is easy, it has less information into it, the search space is smaller, and therefore it should be easier to break than the key itself. But this is where you use Argon 2. This is the absolutely correct place to Argon 2, is to protect your master keys. Because when your application is starting up and you want to get into the vault where you've stored all your master keys, you have gigabytes of memory available and all the cores on your CPU to use. And you can really use Argon 2 to its maximum effect to protect the keys in your storage vault or in your encrypted drive or wherever you put them. So this is the one place where Argon 2 really should be used, is in going from the password to the actual protected cipher keys. But yes, it's a woolly thing. What is sufficient? I can't find an answer. I'm sorry about that, but neither can OWASP. Random numbers. I've spent a long time working on random numbers because PCI DSS has a lot to say on the subject, and it turns out it's a nightmare. Random numbers are really hard. So, to pick out my first red arrow, ensure that random algorithms are seeded with sufficient entropy. Again, what is sufficient? We don't know. Entropy is information that the person who's trying to crack your cipher does not have. And you've got to measure it in bits in some way. You've got to know that they don't know. Now, in most operating systems, when you start the computer up, it starts monitoring all its internal systems. It monitors activity on the disks, on the network, it's the temperature gauges on the CPUs, accumulates all that information, and assumes nobody else will know it. But every single time it starts up, it goes through exactly the same process and collects extremely similar information. So while it's collected enough bits, is it enough bits that your attacker does not know? And that's unclear. Modern CPUs do have hardware random number generators on them, where they use noise diodes, which use a quantum cascade effect to produce random numbers. And they should be totally unpredictable. But then you've got to trust the CPU manufacturer. And a lot of people say, we know NIST and people did mess up the security on some things. Particularly in the random number generator, they published a random number generator called the double elliptic curve algorithm, which, if they'd acted in complete faith, was a perfectly good algorithm. But if they had, because it relied on a public key cryptography, public key cryptography is irreversible. Unless you have the private key, it's secure. NIST published 2 public keys and said, use these in your random number generator. Do NIST have the private keys for those 2 public keys? If they do, then your random numbers were not secure. And then NIST went out and paid people to use double elliptic random number generation in their hardware, which made us all very suspicious. So now do we trust the hardware random number generators? Possible. The fastest and most secure way of getting sufficient entropy into your system is to take a selfie. Pictures are, from an electronic camera, the actual pixel shades are determined by quantum effects. The precise luminance level they measure is unpredictable. You take two images tiny bit apart, and they will have different luminance levels because of that quantum uncertainty. So you feed those, you take a selfie and put it into the random number generator, and you have information nobody can possibly know. And that is secure. But servers out in the cloud do not come with webcams. So you think, I'll plug a webcam in at home. But then you've got to trust the internet to deliver that information securely without being monitored. And really, it does get hard. So sufficient entropy, if you're really bothered about security, which I suppose we should be, is a very difficult thing to get your hand on. Now I then say, tools like the NIST RNG test tool can test if the random number generator any good. That's bollocks. My PhD is in statistics, so I happen to know that's bollocks. There is literally no way of testing if a random number is a random number. It might just be a hard to predict sequence. And indeed, many deterministic random number generators pass these tests all the time. Furthermore, because it's probability that we're talking about, now and again, even the best quantum random number generator hardware fail these tests. So the test doesn't really tell you anything. It tests that it doesn't have one of the patterns the test writers thought to look for. Probably. And that's it. It doesn't tell you that it doesn't have a pattern that the people trying to attack your system have thought to look for. In fact, it's a completely different way of generating the numbers that it definitely doesn't tell you. So this is a problem area. And random numbers are the source for all our cryptographic keys, all our digital signatures. Everything we do as far as security relies on quality random number generators. And they're based on sand because we don't know where that entropy actually comes from. It's a problem. But as I say, take a selfie. Problem solved. Use authenticated encryption. Yeah. This is the next thing. Now, authenticated encryption is where you demand not only that a message is securely encrypted, but also that you know who it comes from, and therefore you can safely pass it to the software. For example, if I sent somebody a random block of bits, they might try and decrypt it, and in trying to process that decrypted information, it might well trigger some exploit on their system. But there are many attacks that are known as chosen ciphertext attacks, where you send somebody some encrypted data, and they process it without knowing who it came from. So authenticated encryption was decided, came on and said, we must stop doing this. We must authenticate that the messages come from a trusted party. Nobody had built that into their protocols. So some clever chaps came up with a way of just doing it with the cipher. And that's where CCM and GCM come in. These are workarounds for a protocol failure. They are not solutions. But they have become considered solutions because everybody said, stop using that system, use CCM or GCM, it'll quickly fix things. And the word quickly became forgotten. Now it's viewed that this will fix things. It was a patch-up job, not the answer. So those are the two methods that OWASP want to talk about. CCM is rarely recommended, but I guess OWASP felt they had to put give you a choice. CCM works by encrypting the message twice with two different keys. One produces the output is output of one of those encryptions. The final block is your method of authentication code, and the other one is your encrypted data. So it's slow. You have to encrypt everything twice. Because it uses CBC, which I talked about earlier, I was talking so fast you probably missed it, but it has real problems with padding. Which means you can only use CBC MAC on a message that has a fixed length, because the padding is terribly bad on CBC. And the first block you can change without breaking the method authentication code if you know what you're doing. So CCM, slow, limited application, and doesn't actually validate the whole message. Yeah, so that's number one. GCA. Galois counter mode uses a complicated hashing function which is very similar to the cyclic redundancy codes algorithms. They use a complicated polynomial to derive a validation number. Because it's a polynomial, and they didn't pick the polynomial terribly well, they didn't know better. But someone then said, ha ha ha, you only picked a better polynomial. There are weak keys for Galois counter mode, where the polynomial verification becomes ridiculously easy to break. Unfortunately, because it's encryption, we don't actually know how the weak keys relate to the polynomial. It's encrypted, literally. So we can't predict what keys are weak until we use them. Now, best practice says that if someone tries to hack your MAT using GCM, you should change a key, because you might have a weak key. But of course, if you didn't have a weak key, this increases the chance that you will hit a weak key, and somebody will be able to hack your messages. So Galois counter mode is a lot better than CCM, but it's still a patch-up job, and it has its weaknesses. Unlike the way of doing it properly. Oh well, this is the thing. The other thing was 120 bits of authentication. The cipher attributes one block, and that's your authentication code in both cases. 120 bits. Previously, many slides back, I won't do it, we said we wanted 256 bits for our message authentication. We've gone down to 128 because of the birthday paradox. We can hit that with 2 to the 64 messages. We can break the authentication. It's vastly weaker than what we said we were going to do, which, yes, we should do what we actually said we do, which gives us, 256 bits of authentication, which is why I've got 89 sharp up to 256 at the end. You might wonder why I was so specific. 89 sharp 5.256. The SHA-2 family, again in this recommendation, they take in a message of any length and grind it down to a number of unpredictable bits. So you can't go from the bits back to the message anyway. They produce two versions, the 256-bit bit and the 512-bit version. The 512-bit version produces a larger result, and it runs more steps internally. But it compresses the data up into a manageable size less often. And it turns out the compression step is the expensive bit. So SHA-512 is faster than SHA-256, even though it produces less output and has more internal steps. So for speed, we're using SHA-512-256. So that gives me the same level of validation, 256 bits, and it's the fast option. And then the middle bit to explain, encrypt then MAC. When we said we would validate the message, we said, should we produce the plain text and then produce a MAC for it and then encrypt both? If you do that, you process unvalidated data. You could be vulnerable to a chosen ciphertext attack or chosen ciphertext attack, and you certainly don't know who sent the message, so it's a bad thing. The other way to do it is to encrypt the message, take all your ciphertext, and produce a message authentication code for that. And that is currently the preferred thing. And the reason why we didn't do it right at the start is because we simply didn't put a data field in our protocol for that matter. But if we had, we would never have had to mess around with CCM and GCM. So this is more secure, more bits of authentication, and doesn't have any of all these problems that the other messages have. So it's definitely the better option right now, even though it's not what OWASP and most of the internet say you should do. They're all saying use CCM or GCM still. Password hashing. Yes, if you want to log into something, you need to know someone's giving you a password. You can't store the password, because then if someone nicks your database, they'll know the password. So we have to use some kind of hashing thing. I've already talked about algorithm 2 and why it's not a good for login. OWASP also recommends PPKDF2, that's password-based key derivation function number 2, bcrypt or scrypt. And I think only PPKDF2 is a good idea. And I'll explain why in a bit, I think, if I remember my slide on correctly. This is a teeny nitpick. They said you could use any AES key for that amount of data, but it's closer to these huge numbers. They're still huge, but technically wrong. And again, my point is, it's easy to get the wrong advice. They said I could use it for millions of terabytes, and I can't with maintaining security. It's a nitpick because the limit is so huge. What was this one about? Oh yes. This is a really serious problem when you're trying to make servers in the cloud. You want to be able to just bring them up, and they've got to have all their information available, including all the cipher keys that they're going to use. Where do they get those cipher keys from? OWASP say they should never be stored on the server. Well, that's okay. I can store them on a different server and connect them somehow. FTP, HTTP, remote drives, whatever. But that means that they are immediately accessible as soon as I've hacked the server. They are not. They may as well be on the server. So if I can access it, it's not protected. And if I can't access it, I can't use it. There is literally no such thing as a cloud-based key sounding. A key sounding is the kind of thing they do in the classic nuclear launch missile silos, where they have two guys standing 10 feet apart who have to turn keys simultaneously to prove that they really wanted to launch the missiles. There is no known way of doing that on a cloud server. And that's the only way of actually doing this thing. In banks, they have key ceremonies. They have two guys with physical keys go down into the basement, stand 10 feet apart, put them into locks, and turn them to initiate the system. That's how the banks do it. In the cloud, you can't walk up to the machine and put your key in. It just can't be done. Nobody has thought of a way of really securing those initial keys. So you can't cold start servers effectively with secure things. So while the advice is good, it doesn't solve the problem. There are ways of getting close, but they're very complicated, and they never give you quite that. You can just restart the machine, which is what you want if you're in the cloud. So it's not a practical solution, but nobody knows what the practical solution is. Sorry. Yeah. This is the next one. Ensure that key material is independent. Okay. How do you create a key? Well, you use a secure random number generator, and you take its output. For your next key, you take its next block of output. That's not independent. You've already broken the rule. Okay, so another way of doing it is you could take 5 or 6 blocks and pick one. People are terrible at choosing. You enter that 200,000 years of not doing any privacy, people are terrible at choosing keys randomly. They're useless at it. And if you could use a key derivation function. That means you come up with an incredibly complicated password, memorize it, and derive the key from that using one of the key derivation functions. Again, you're basing your assumption that somebody can choose a good password. And people are notoriously bad at choosing bad passwords. Notoriously good at choosing bad passwords, notoriously bad at choosing good passwords. Whichever way you want to look at it. Choosing a key means trusting human. They're independent, difficult to achieve. Key derivation functions basically come trusting a human. Who would? Key encrypting keys. A key encrypting key is where you have your cipher key and you want to protect it by encrypting it with another cipher key, which you then think, where should I store that? I know, I'll encrypt it. I'll just encrypt that key with another cipher key and then I'll put that cipher key somewhere. How do I keep it safe? I know, I'll encrypt it. Oh, you can see the problem. But yeah, key encrypting keys are a thing. Basically, you have one master cipher key that controls access to all your other keys. And that's the key encrypting key. The thing in question is, where do you put it? a secure USB drive that you can take out when you've used it is a common option, unless you're in the cloud, which makes that matter. And OWASP did not mention key wrapping. Key wrapping is a special way of using a block cipher, particularly AES. It has to be a block cipher the same size as AES, 128 bits. And it effectively encrypts the key 6 times. The reason it does it 6 times is it's a mathematical route about applying a permutation of any kind 6 times gives you a decent cipher. And it really, so basically 6 layers of encryption in a standard way that's withstood lots of academic study, and each layer is AES, which itself should be enough to encrypt the key. So AES key wrapping is what you should be doing to protect all your other keys once you have your key encrypted key. And OWASP should have mentioned it and did not. Right, my recommendations. So now I've finished nitpicking against OWASP. Sorry, OWASP. These are all the things I think are the very best way to do it, but using the same structure OWASP laid out in their documentation. So, key exchange. I prefer elliptic curves to RSA. Elliptic curves are faster to calculate, and there is no clever quantum algorithm in the wings waiting to break them. Elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman gives you a shared secret derived from public and private keys. Once you have that shared key, you can use it directly, but that is potentially unwise, so you should put it into a key derivation function. HKDF is basically you put it into SHA a couple of times. There's more to it, but that's basically message integrity. That's why a specific algorithm of choice, HMAC, SHA-512, T56. Basic chaps, again, SHA-512. As explained here, SHA-512 is faster. The only reason I'm going for 512, 256 is speed. I do not want the extra bits. If you happen to know your quantum mechanics, as I'm sure you all do, if you wanted to power a computer simply to enumerate 256 bits, it would take more energy than there is in the entire solar system. You could convert every planet and the entire sun into energy, power your computer at its optimal operating temperature, and you wouldn't complete the brute force search. So you never need to go above 256, unless you're facing some alien invasion from another universe who have willing to destroy entire servers of crash things. And basically we're back to the $5 wrench problem. You know, destroy entire sound system, $5 wrench. It's going to be the $5 wrench. But you never need more than 256 bits. Asymmetric encryption. They wanted RSA. I like elliptic curve integrated encryption speed because it's got the performance of the elliptic curves, it's got a built-in message authentication, and it's based around AES. So that's ECIS is a thing, and if you want to send a private message with public-private key cryptography, that is the algorithm I would pick. Symmetric encryption. I think I've talked about that. And password hashing. PBKDF2 is definitely the choice for me. And SHA-256 there, because in this specific case, that's the password. Password storage. Oh yes. Yes, because now I've got to talk about why there's hash passwords. Humans are rubbish at passwords. They are. If you're storing the password, you're definitely doing it wrong. Those are the algorithms that we've been told. I've explained Algorithm 2 extremely good. It's the only one of these that actually has built-in protection against side channel attacks, for example. PBKDF2 is repeated hashing. S-script is a memory hard problem, but nobody has really scrutinised it and vouched for it like they have the others. And bcrypt is just the bottom of the list. So, okay. So, I was going to nitpick the OWASP cheat on password, sorry, but it's really good. So I couldn't. except for the love of Argon 2. There are literally, if you want to know how to implement Argon 2, there's plenty of advice on the OWASP password storage cheat sheet. But PBKDF2 is quite a fixed certification. If you care about NIST approval, the PBKDF2 is the one they approve. And Argon 2 is, as I said, approved by some guys. And yeah, if you use any of these algorithms, they all become memory hard or time hard or CPU hard to prevent the password being reverse engineered. So in every single case, if you're secure, you've also made login a denial of service, which isn't great. So how would I do it? It's very simple with PKDF2. On the browser, I do some rounds of PKDF2, or the client, if it's not a browser-based thing. When people first started, obviously browsers could not do PKDF2, now it's built in. The window.subtle.crypto library, it's a built-in thing. You can just call the JavaScript function, get as many rounds as you want. Then instead of sending the password, you'd send the PBKDF2 with lots and lots of rounds. Previously, I was sending the password, everything's there. Now I'm sending something that would be considered secure, and it's still protected by HTTPS. So I've actually improved that step through the cloud. In the login request, I do a PBKDF2 with a different salt. Up there, I have to do a salt to the PBKDF2. It has the user ID. As long as it's unique to each user, that's fine, because it prevents you using a rainbow table attack. But you also want it to be different between systems, and same user ID, same password on many systems is a common thing. So I have to use a different salt down here to secure the password. I also shard 256 the password first, because some people have commented that if you use a ridiculously long password, like 100k of password kind of thing, it really slows down PBKDF2. And it just becomes hard to log in. So, yeah, so doing that way, what I send across the internet is more secure, and what I store in the database is as secure, because it's still PBKDF2 with lots and lots of rounds, and I've got to do a lot less work. I can do like 10 to 20 rounds on the server instead of 100,000. So, and the end final data stored is still 100,000 rounds of PBKDF2. So, that's me. I'm done. You think you can better? Please volunteer. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer them. Yes.
Right. Your CFP mode. Right?
Yes.
The big problem with CFP mode is an attacker can add things on the end of the data, and the thing will still decrypt it.
Yes.
Combined with the thing that worries me there, your authenticator, you're using a SHA-2-based algorithm, which also has a hash extension attack possibility.
That was not inside HMAC.
Oh, yeah, that's where it's going, yes. It just seems really worrisome, combining two algorithms that just ever so close to having extension attacks.
Yes. Inside, as far as I'm aware, HMAC is proof against length extension.
Yes, okay.
And I said SHA-512.256, which is also proof against length extension attacks. Because to do a length extension attack, when you run SHA-2 of any kind, it calculates final state, and that is the actual hash. If you want to add more data to the end of the message, you load that final state back into the hash, add more data, get the next output, and that's your new hash, which authenticates the message purpose. So, with SHA-512.256, half the state has gone missing. You've cut it up, because you get 512 bits of output, and you throw 256 bits away. So you cannot load it back in. So, my verification is proof in two ways. First, with the HMAC, and second, because I said SHA-512.256.
Okay. So next question is, TLS 1.3 has just been released.
Yes.
And what you're saying looks nothing like what all these folk are saying, that it looks like Ciphers. How come the disparity?
What are they saying? Tell me what they're saying.
Well, they recommended 5 Cipher suites in TLS 1.3.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I see GCM mode in there, and I see CCM mode, and some crazy things with Chatter 20 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chatter 20 is by the same guy who does
Daniel J. Bernstein, yes.
You did, that's the name, Bernstein.
I bumped into him in the bar in Leipzig over Christmas. He's an interesting chap.
He's a great salesman. He really is. He's come up with these ideas, and he's touted them out, and he's got a lot of people convinced. But I stand by my point. His work is not as scrutinised as the NIST algorithms. So if I had to choose, I'm going to one that's had widespread international scrutiny.
Yeah.
I don't know of any weaknesses in his work, but I'm not a cryptographer. I've got to look at the risks and say, this one is the lowest risk. So if I've got to pick one, that's the one.
Okay, that's good.
Anything else?
Yeah, that's it. So
Okay.
I'm sure I can speak your own night.
Oh, sure, we can, yes. But, other people might want to talk again. Anyone else? Okay, so if you think you're better at keeping your audience awake, please volunteer. Boychek would love to hear from you. I've done the best I can, so yeah, there we go. Okay, that's it then.